I wasn't supposed to be working that Saturday. I only said yes because it was quiet, the kind of shift where time doesn't fight you, it just drifts. The station was my usual space to disappear into, a half-lit corner table in the back of the bookstore cafe, where I made cappuccinos for people who rarely looked up from their phones. She wasn't supposed to be here either. I first noticed her because she was the only one looking at the room, not at a screen, not at a menu, just observing. Mid-40s, hair tied loosely like she hadn't decided whether she'd stay or leave. No makeup-heavy effort. But the way she kept her coat on, fingers lightly holding the handle of her bag, it felt like intention. Like she wasn't here to relax. She was here to confirm something. And she was staring at me first. Not intensely, more like she was trying to reconcile a memory. I didn't react at first. Just finished steaming the milk for an order and pretended I didn't notice. But when I placed the drink at the counter and looked up again, she was still watching. Not smiling. Not embarrassed. Like she was studying the sky before deciding if it would rain. She approached the counter the moment I looked away, like she didn't want me to prepare for it. "Just black coffee," she said. Her voice, low, unhurried, sounded like someone used to being listened to properly. Not the kind people talk over. I nodded, typed it into the register. My hands moved out of habit. But I was suddenly hyper-aware of every small movement. The way I wiped my palms on the apron. The way my gaze flickered to her hands before meeting her eyes. "This the only branch you work at?" she asked casually. Nobody asks that. It sounded almost accusatory. But her expression wasn't. If anything, it held a strange softness. Like she already knew the answer, and just wanted to hear me say it. "Most days, yeah." She nodded slowly. Looked at the wall, as if searching for the rest of her sentence, but it never arrived. She sat near the window. Jacket stayed on. Coffee untouched for a full minute. Eyes on the street, not drinking, not checking her phone, not reading. Just, waiting. That's when I finally remembered. She'd come here 2 weeks ago. Ordered the same thing. Black coffee. Sat in the exact same seat. I remember because she never once looked at her drink, just out the window, as if expecting to recognize someone's car. She came for someone who wasn't me. But she had just made eye contact like it was. A notification buzzed in my apron pocket. I usually ignore messages during shift. But something made me look. It was my girlfriend. "I'm outside. Don't freak out. Thought I'd surprise you." I glanced at the woman by the window, still waiting. Hands folded over the cup lid. Still watching the street. And I felt something extremely off begin forming, because she wasn't waiting for me. But for some reason, it suddenly felt like whatever she was about to see, was going to involve me. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to stop it. She wasn't looking for me. That thought should have made it easy to step back. Stay out of it. Serve coffee and let the scene play out like background ambience. But the moment my girlfriend's message landed, "I'm outside. Don't freak out." I looked instinctively toward the window. Not to look for her, but to check the woman's reaction. She hadn't seen the message. She just kept scanning the street like she was measuring every passing car by sound alone. One hand curled around the coffee lid now. Unmoved. Still waiting. My girlfriend texted again. 2 minutes. Parking's crazy, lol. I slid my phone back into my apron. Something that felt like wrongness pressed behind my ribs. Because I suddenly knew, whoever that woman was waiting for, it wasn't coming in 2 minutes. I moved without deciding to, picked up a cleaning rag, pretended to wipe the table closest to hers. She spoke first. "Your girlfriend?" Her eyes were still on the window. I stilled. Didn't answer. She turned her head, not fully, just enough. You looked at your phone like someone was about to change the room. Not accusing. Just sharply, perceptive. Too precise to ignore. Yeah, I admitted. She's on her way. A small exhale, not disappointment. More like confirmation. She finally took a sip of her coffee. Then, I came here last week. Same time. A pause. She didn't look at me. He wasn't here either. It wasn't a confession. More like stating a weather condition. But it landed like one. He. Not someone. Not a friend. Just he. I nodded, quietly. No idea why. Maybe to say, I get it more than I should. Then, unintentionally, I asked the wrong thing. Are you waiting for him again? She finally looked at me fully. No, she said, tone almost serene. I'm waiting to see if I was wrong about him. The air between us changed. Heavy, but not loud. I understood, without details, that this woman had already lost something. And was not yet ready to admit it. A car door slammed outside. Light footsteps. Familiar voice laughing to someone on the phone. My girlfriend. Seconds away. The woman heard it too. She didn't turn. Just, gently, adjusted her hand on the coffee cup. Composed. As if she had trained herself for this. Then she said the one thing she shouldn't have. You remind me of him. When he was still reachable. Something in my chest reacted, not flattered, not curious, seen. Not as a boyfriend. Not as a barista. Just, seen. In a way that was too adult. Too specific. Before I could respond, she did something small. She slid her cup slightly toward me, not offering, but aligning it directly in my space. Like a silent handover. Not a touch. Not intimate. But not accidental. And I don't know why that moment stayed with me, maybe because it felt like someone finally saw me. The bell above the door chimed, the kind of sound that reset the entire room. My girlfriend stepped in, breathless from rushing, smiling before she even spotted me behind the counter. She always filled space before she entered it. That was her nature. The woman by the window didn't move. Didn't pretend not to notice, she simply allowed the moment to arrive without reacting to it. That, somehow, made it worse. Because my girlfriend looked at her first. Not at me. A single half-second of evaluating presence, stranger, older woman, alone, harmless, and then her eyes finally found mine. Hi, she mouthed silently, lifting her hand just slightly as if to wave, but didn't, because she remembered this was my workplace. I looked back at the woman. She was still facing forward now. Not at me. Not at her. At nothing. But I realized, her breathing had changed. Almost imperceptibly, her shoulders had stiffened. She was not unaffected. And I shouldn't have cared about that. But I did. My girlfriend came to the counter, smiling in that familiar way, already reaching for my hand over the register. I pulled back naturally, like I always do on shift. But I realized with a jolt, this time, I didn't want her hand to reach mine, even if we weren't in public. Something dark flickered in me. Not anger. Not shame. Something like unwillingness. She started talking, I honestly don't remember the words. Something about traffic. Something about surprising me. She leaned in to whisper something close to my ear, playful, distracting. But behind her, in the reflection of the glass, I saw the woman finally turning her cup slightly away from her. Like she had quietly decided she was done waiting. She rose slowly. My heart moved faster than logic. She didn't leave. She walked deliberately, not toward the exit, but toward the return station near the counter, where customers were supposed to leave used cups. Her path passed so close behind my girlfriend that fabric brushed fabric. She didn't say a word. But as she placed her cup on the tray, she looked at me. Only me. And held my gaze long enough to feel like a risk. A question. A pause that nearly clicked into confession. Then, she broke it first. "Thank you," she said quietly. "Not to my girlfriend. To me. Only to me. And not for the coffee." And I, like an idiot, whispered back, "Will you be here next week?" My girlfriend didn't hear it. But the woman definitely did. Her expression shifted. Not surprised. Not pleased. Something far more dangerous. Recognition. But instead of answering, she simply breathed in, like holding words she knew she shouldn't say, and left. The bell rang again. The air after her was colder. My girlfriend was still talking beside me. And all I could think was, if she had stayed 2 seconds longer, I don't know what I might have said. Or done. It was after closing. Lights dimmed. Chairs flipped onto tables. I was wiping the counters slowly, not for cleanliness but for time. My girlfriend had already left, she had somewhere to be. She kissed my cheek on the way out. I didn't feel much. I waited 5 minutes. Then 10. I don't know for what. At 12 minutes, I saw her. She wasn't outside the glass. She was inside. Back by the end of the hallway. All the way past the restroom sign, the place customers never go unless they're lost. She wasn't lost. She was waiting. She must have come back. The way she stood, one hand loosely around the strap of her bag, posture relaxed but entirely alert, it felt like she had rehearsed this moment twice before deciding to stay. I didn't call out to her. I walked over the way one walks toward a confession booth, even if I was the one meant to receive, not give. We stopped with a polite, almost formal distance between us. Just beyond reach. Just within consequence. She spoke first. Quiet. "I didn't like how she looked at you." The words were frank. No jealousy. Just clarity. I swallowed. Didn't trust my voice. "She looks at me like I belong to her," I finally said. Even when it doesn't feel true. A silence that wasn't comfortable, but wasn't hostile. A silence where both people are too awake to pretend. Her eyes briefly closed, like that sentence hurt more than she expected. "You asked if I'd be here next week," she said. She didn't ask why. She didn't need to. I nodded once. Slow. Regretting it the second I did. "That wasn't meant for me to hear," she added. "It was," I said before I could lie. That changed the air. Something in her restraint almost cracked. She looked away, not to withdraw, but because she needed to think without me inside the thought. A long stretch of silence. Then, softly, like touching an old bruise, he used to forget I was in the room. Even when I was right beside him. Not informative. Personal. The kind of sentence no one ever means to say until they are too tired to hold it. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't know what to say. But because I knew too well what she meant. She noticed. Her eyes finally met mine again, unguarded. Not inviting. Not restrained. Seeing me and letting me see her back. Footsteps approached from the kitchen, a coworker coming to ask about trash disposal. We both heard it. We both didn't move. The footsteps got closer. Too close. She leaned in, barely, a distance that wouldn't look like anything if someone walked in right now, but meant everything because they might. "Do you want me to leave?" she whispered. It wasn't a question about the cafe. And I didn't answer. She didn't come the next day. Or the one after. I kept pretending I wasn't noticing. But I adjusted everything as if she might walk in at any second. Cleared the window seat before opening. Slowed down steaming milk when a coat caught in my peripheral vision. Checked the reflection in every glass surface far too often. I hated how quietly I wanted her to return. It was only on the fourth day that something appeared, not her, an envelope. Folded under the salt shaker of her usual seat. No name on it. Just, left there. Like she hadn't meant to give it to me directly. Like she was testing whether I was looking for it. I didn't open it immediately. I waited until closing, not because I feared what was inside, but because I wasn't ready for what it could change. Small handwriting. Measured. Not rushed. I should not be here again. Not because of you, but because I know what I look like when I start waiting for someone again. He had a child. I pretended I was fine with that. I wasn't. I don't want you to mistake my quiet for approval. I hope you never learn to disappear the way I did. No signature. Just that. She didn't say don't contact me. She didn't say goodbye. She explained why she shouldn't stay, but never said she wouldn't. Which was worse? I drafted 3 responses that night. All unsent. Are you okay? Come tomorrow. Why did it feel like you were waiting for me instead of him? Deleted all of them. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused. Like life forgot to finish the sentence. The next week, nothing. The week after, still nothing. I tried to reset back to normal. Force neutral. Just work. Just coffee. Just transactions and names on cups. It was going okay. Until I saw him. Different man. Late 40s. Self-assured in the way men get when they've disappointed too many people and stopped fearing consequence. He walked straight in, didn't order, scanned the room, and went straight to her seat. He looked annoyed. Not devastated. Not lost. Looking for something he clearly thought was still his. That was the moment something inside me shifted. Not jealousy, not exactly. More like, oh. She wasn't imagining it. He stayed 2 minutes. Left. Didn't even glance at me. But something colder stayed in the air he left behind. Like she had not been paranoid. She had been preyed upon. That night, for the first time, I typed a message all the way through, if you come back, I'll be here. I didn't send it. Just left the cursor blinking. Like I was waiting for her to press it for me. It was raining, but not enough to matter, one of those light, hesitant drizzles that don't soak you, just remind you that the sky is thinking. I wasn't working. I don't know why I went to the cafe anyway. Habit. Or hope disguised as aimlessness. She was there. Standing outside, not inside, by the side of the building, under the narrow awning where deliveries usually happen. Not waiting for a table. Not passing by. Waiting to not be seen. Her hair was damp. No umbrella. Jacket sleeves slightly darkened from the water. I didn't approach right away. She saw me first. Didn't smile. But visibly, relieved. Not that I came. That I wasn't, surprised. Like she had prepared herself for rejection before she even turned around. We didn't speak for several seconds. No greetings. No apologies. No are you okays. Just that charged stillness where both people know this doesn't get to happen twice. Finally, she broke it. I'm not here to start anything. I nodded once. I'm not here to imagine anything. Her eyes softened, almost imperceptibly. She believed me. Or needed to. Silence. The kind that could turn either into goodbye or confession. She looked down, then out at the street. Her voice was quiet. He wasn't cruel. That's what made it worse. He stayed close enough to feel like a possibility. But never close enough to feel like I could speak. I didn't interrupt. She wasn't telling a story. She was explaining a wound, without asking to be fixed. And I kept thinking, her throat tightened, not emotional, restrained. Maybe recognition counts as love. Maybe proximity is enough. Her fingers gripped the strap of her bag slightly. Like she needed to hold on to something. And then I saw you look at her the way I used to look at him. Not jealousy. Just fact. And I didn't want you to become me. It landed like something irreversible. Not romantic. Protective. She wasn't warning me away from her. She was warning me away from disappearing. I stepped closer, not to touch her. Just to remove the option of pretending I hadn't heard her fully. I don't look at her the way I look at you. She looked up. Not startled. Just, steady. Like she already knew, but had hoped I would fail to say it. And how is that? She asked softly. I should have looked away. I didn't. Like there's still time to answer. A long silence. Not tense. Just final. She exhaled slowly, a release of something she'd clearly carried for too long. Then, nothing dramatic. She simply reached out, fingers barely brushing my sleeve, and said, almost like a surrender, not a confession, okay. Not a yes. Not a promise. Just permission to exist in this moment, together. We never called it anything. We never made a decision, or confessed, or promised. We just kept showing up, not always at the same time, not always sure if the other would be there, and letting recognition be enough. It started small. She'd come just before opening sometimes. Before the lights were fully on. She'd wait at the corner table, no coffee yet, just the steam of warm air from the machines and the quiet before the world remembered itself. She drank black coffee now, not because she liked it, but because it was honest. Bitterness feels more respectful than pretending, she once said. She never elaborated. She didn't have to. It's been months. She doesn't sit by the window anymore. That seat was for waiting on someone who forgot she existed. She sits at the booth in the back, where nobody looks accidentally. Where presence is a choice. I don't rush to her. She doesn't expect me to. But the moment I sit down, her shoulders lower by a millimeter, a movement so subtle I wouldn't have noticed it before. Now, it feels louder than words. We talk sometimes. We don't most of the time. It isn't romantic. It is, weightless. Like exhaling after months of breathing too carefully. Once, after close, we walked home, not together, but in the same direction. Neither of us said where we lived. We just kept walking until our streets diverged. Neither turned. Do you ever think about what this is? I asked. She was quiet a long moment. Then, with the faintest hint of dry humor, not while it's still happening. I laughed, which felt strange and necessary. She didn't. But the corner of her mouth did. This morning, at exactly 8:47 a.m., she looked up from her coffee and said, "Do you realize you never look at the door anymore?" I hadn't. She had. I smiled. She didn't return it immediately. But she reached, without looking, and slid her cup an inch closer to mine, the same gesture from the first day, except this time, it didn't feel like surrender. It felt like arrival. I don't know what we are. I don't know if it matters. I just know, something in both of us stopped bracing for disappointment. And that might be the closest thing to love I've ever believed in. Did this story stay with you? What kind of quiet, real love should I write next, for people who don't want fireworks, but want to finally feel seen?